Version 3.0 of Monster Hunter Rise completes the game that we should have received at launch. We can now safely say that we have access to every greatsword that the base game can offer us. And so, very much like we have done in version 1.0 and version 2.0, it is time that we run the numbers and figure out which is the best greatsword that we have access to at the moment. Please understand that there is a lot of content in this video. As such, I have placed timestamps in the description in order to guide you through each section and let you navigate to whichever part you are most interested in. There is a lot of information, so make sure to skip to the part that you need. Before we begin with the subject of this video, there are a few things that you must take into consideration. First and foremost, there will be a lot of numbers and a lot of calculations. Please understand that I am not a mathematician. My profession is a different one. This means that throughout this video, I may make mistakes. If you see a mistake, please let me know in the comments below. This video is about making sure that all greatsword hunters have as much information as possible, and this is something that we can do a lot faster and a lot better working together. Second, in this video, I will tell you which is the best greatsword in version 3.0 of Monster Hunter Rise. What I am not telling you is what you need to use. Remember, what may be the best in the game may not be the best for you. So please, as always, use what you prefer. With nothing further to add, let's get started. It is important that we understand a few parameters and conditions to these calculations. First, all greatswords have a build made for them that highlights their strength and maximizes their power. That said, in order to keep things controlled, all the builds were made using the same talisman. The talisman is a Fatal Tempest talisman with 1 point in weakness exploit and 1 level 2 decoration slot. We use this talisman because it is a simple 2-point talisman and most hunters have access to these at this time. The objective is for as many hunters as possible to be able to use this information. For this reason, no god talismans were used. Second, each greatsword will be ranked through the calculation of its EfR. The greatsword with the highest EfR will be deemed the best. Third, we are using greatswords, and as such, we focus on raw damage. Since elemental damage on greatswords is so minute and does not provide a huge difference, EfR calculations will be centered on achieving the most consistent raw damage possible. Fourth, all calculations were done using these buffs only: Power Talon, Power Charm, and a full Demon Petalace 2. No other buffs were applied. Finally, I have calculated the EfR of the 14 best greatswords in the game. Unfortunately, most of them are very disappointing, and using them provides no benefits. For this reason, I will not drag you through the details of each one. Instead, I will speak briefly about the first 12 greatswords to finally focus on the 2 best ones. If you're only interested on the final 2, make sure you skip ahead. With all of this clear, we must first understand what EfR is, as we will be using it as our unit of measurement for each greatsword's power. EfR stands for effective raw, and it is the measurement of consistent damage that a weapon can do throughout a full hunt. EfR does not focus on the highest damage possible in a single hit, or the highest attack rating possible. Instead, we value the consistency of a weapon dealing high amounts of damage for a prolonged period of time without relying on excessive luck. In order to discover the EfR of a greatsword, we must apply its mathematical formula. The formula for EfR is attack multiplied by the sharpness modifier of the weapon multiplied by the critical modifier of the weapon. The attack of the greatsword is the total attack of the weapon after all buffs are applied. The sharpness modifier is the amount of extra damage that a weapon does due to its sharpness. For purposes of this video, we are interested in two sharpness modifiers: blue sharpness with a modifier of 1.2 and white sharpness with a modifier of 1.32. The critical modifier of a greatsword is the extra damage that a weapon does due to the frequency and power of its critical attacks. This modifier has its own formula. To find the critical modifier of a greatsword, you have to take its affinity multiplied by the critical damage modifier and you add 1. On a general basis, the critical damage modifier is 0.25 for all weapons, but it changes depending on how many levels of critical boost you have on your build. It is 0.3 for critical boost 1, 0.35 for critical boost 2, and 0.4 for critical boost 3. Applying these formulas to the specific stats of each greatsword will give us the EfR. With all of this information, it is time that we find out which is the best greatsword in version 3.0 of Monster Hunter Rise. Out of the 14 greatswords that I tested, there are 12 of them that are completely irrelevant. I say this because they are too weak or too uncomfortable to use effectively in comparison with the top options in this version of the game. Nevertheless, let's briefly go through each one so you can understand why they're not worth using. Number 14 is the Rathalos Greatsword. The Rathalos Fire Sword is a greatsword that we received in version 2.0 of the game. It has 210 raw attack that we make 218 with the attack boost 3 ramp up skill. It has 30 hits of natural blue sharpness that we can turn into white with 4 levels of handicraft. It has a raw element of 40 fire and 0% natural affinity. It comes with a level 1 decoration slot. After maximizing the attack and affinity of this greatsword, it has an EfR of 416.3. Number 13 is the Ibushi Greatsword. The Abyssal Gale Blade is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has 210 raw attack and 120 hits of natural blue sharpness that we can turn into white with 4 levels of handicraft. It has a raw element of 15 dragon and 0% natural affinity. Unfortunately, it has no decoration slots and none of its ramp-up skills directly affect its power. Nevertheless, this greatsword has an EfR of 427.6. Number 12 is the Teostra Greatsword. The King Teostra Blade is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has 190 raw attack that we turn into 198 with the attack boost 3 ramp up skill. It has 20 hits of natural blue sharpness that we can turn into white with 3 levels of handicraft. It has a raw status of 45 blast and 0% natural affinity. It has no decoration slots. This greatsword has an EfR of 429, but we get it by sacrificing the focus skill and having only 10 hits of white sharpness. Number 11 is the Narwa Greatsword. The Abyssal Storm Cleaver is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has 190 raw attack that we can turn into 198 with the attack boost 3 ramp up skill. It has 60 hits of blue sharpness that we can turn into white with 2 levels of handicraft. It has a raw element of 50 thunder and 0% natural affinity. It has no decoration slots. This greatsword has an EfR of 435.6, but we achieve it by sacrificing the focus skill and having only 10 hits of white sharpness. Number 10 is the Chameleos Greatsword. The Foreboding Shamshir is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has 190 raw attack that we turn into 198 with the attack boost 3 ramp up skill. It has 80 hits of blue sharpness that we can turn to white with level 1 handicraft. It has a raw status of 66 poison and 0% natural affinity. It comes with 1 level 2 decoration slot and 2 level 1 decoration slots. This greatsword has an EfR of 439.1 with a comfortable 20 hits of white sharpness. Unfortunately, we have to sacrifice the focus skill. Number 9 is the Rajang Greatsword. The Great Demon Rod is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has 210 raw attack and 10 hits of blue sharpness that we can turn into white with 5 levels of handicraft. It has a raw element of 26 thunder and 10 natural affinity that we turn into 16% with the ramp up skill, Affinity Boost 2. It has 1 level 3 decoration slot. This greatsword has an EfR of 441.9 but only 10 hits of blue sharpness. Number 8 is the Balstrax Greatsword. The Red Knot Claymore is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has 180 raw attack that we can turn into 188 with the Attack Boost 3 ramp up skill. It has 90 hits of natural white sharpness and a raw element of 45 dragon. It has 0% natural affinity and it comes with 1 level 2 decoration slot. This greatsword has an EfR of 443.4, but we achieve it by sacrificing the focus skill. Number 7 is the Kushala Greatsword. The Deora's Decimator is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has 190 raw attack that we can turn into 198 with the Attack Boost 3 ramp up skill. It has 10 hits of natural white sharpness and a raw element of 45 ice. It has 10% natural affinity and 1 level 1 decoration slot. This greatsword has an EfR of 448.8 but remains with only 10 hits of white sharpness. Number 6 is the Cinogre Greatsword. The Despot's Blackstorm is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has 200 raw attack that we turn into 206 with Attack Boost 2. It has 30 hits of natural blue sharpness that we turn into white with 2 levels of handicraft. It has a raw element of 38 thunder and a natural affinity of 0%. It comes with 2 level 1 decoration slots. This greatsword has an EfR of 449.5, but we achieve it by sacrificing the focus skill and having only 10 hits of white sharpness. Number 5 is the Gos Harag Greatsword. The Abominable Greatsword is a greatsword that we received in version 1.0 of the game. It has 230 raw attack and 30 hits of natural blue sharpness that we can turn into white with 5 levels of handicraft. It has a raw element of 20 ice and a natural affinity of -15% that we turn into -9% with the Affinity Boost 2 ramp up skill. It comes with 1 level 2 decoration slot. This greatsword has an EfR of 449.6. Number 4 is the Tigrex Greatsword. The Tigrex Greatsword is a greatsword that we received in version 1.0 of the game. It has 210 raw attack that we turn into 218 with the Attack Boost 3 ramp up skill. It has 20 hits of natural white sharpness and a natural affinity of -15%. It comes with 1 level 1 decoration slot. This greatsword has an EfR of 450.7. Number 3 is the Mitsusune Greatsword. The Akanesasu is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. It has a raw attack of 190 that we turn into 198 with the Attack Boost 3 ramp up skill. It has 40 hits of blue sharpness that we can turn into white with level 1 handicraft. It has a raw element of 30 water and a natural affinity of 15%. It comes with 1 level 1 decoration slot. This greatsword has an EfR of 455 1.4, but we achieve it by sacrificing the focus skill. As you can see, these 12 greatswords always have some characteristics that they are lacking, which heavily affects their EfR. Some of them have too low raw attack, others come with no useful decoration slots, and there are some that require heavy investments into handicraft to reach white sharpness. Some greatswords require that we sacrifice focus, a key skill, in order to boost their EfR. Even the Mitsasune greatsword, with an impressive 455.4 EfR, needs to be played with no focus in order to be able to come close to the top tier greatswords. There are too many complications and too many sacrifices needed in order to use these weapons effectively. For these reasons, the top two greatswords in version 3.0 are so superior that they render the rest completely irrelevant. At last, we have reached the top. The next two greatswords are the best that you can find in the game, and using either of these will allow you to be at peak efficiency. The two remaining greatswords are the Rampage Cleaver S from the Rampage tree and the Dark of Night from the Nargacuga tree. Please note that all calculations will be done taking into consideration that the hunter is hitting a monster's weak spot. The Rampage Cleaver S is a greatsword that we received in version 3.0 of the game. This particular Rampage greatsword is boosted with the following ramp-up skills: Attack Boost 4, Non-Elemental Boost, and Affinity Surge. This ramp-up skill combination is the best to use when we do not have a good talisman. If you have a god talisman, consider Sharpness 1, Non-Elemental Boost, and Affinity Surge, while using 2 levels of handicraft to achieve a comfortable white sharpness. But since the talisman we are using only has 1 point in Weakness Exploit and 1 level 2 decoration slot, it is better to use Attack Boost 4 instead of Sharpness 1. As a result, the Rampage Cleaver S has a total of 220 raw attack, 40 hits of blue sharpness, 20% natural affinity, and no decoration slots. To test the EfR of this greatsword, we used the following skills: Critical Eye 6, Attack Boost 4, Critical Boost 3, Weakness Exploit 3, Stun Resistance 3, Focus 2, Marathon Runner 1, Teostra Blessing 1. And altogether, it ends up with these stats: 273 attack and 50% affinity that turns into 100% when hitting a monster's weak spot. If you want the full and complete breakdown of the build that I used for this weapon, check the description of the video. With all of the information, let's calculate the EfR. The critical modifier of this greatsword is 1 from the affinity multiplied by 0.4 from critical boost 3, and we add 1 for a total of 1.4. This means that the EfR of the Rampage Cleaver S is 273 from its total attack, multiplied by 1.2 from its blue sharpness, multiplied by 1.4 from its critical modifier, for a total of 458.6 EfR. Moving on to the Dark of Night, this is a greatsword that we received in version 1.0 of the game. It has a raw attack of 180 that we turn into 188 with the Attack Boost 3 ramp-up skill. It has 20 hits of natural white sharpness and a natural affinity of 35%. It has 1 level 2 decoration slot. To test the EfR of this greatsword, we used the following skills: Attack Boost 7, Critical Eye 3, Critical Boost 3, Weakness Exploit 3, Stun Resistance 3, Speed Sharpening 3, Focus 2, Marathon Runner 1, Dragonheart 1. And altogether, it ends up with these stats: 251 attack and 50% affinity that turns into 100% when hitting a monster's weak spot. Once again, if you want the full and complete breakdown of the build that I used for this weapon, check the description of the video. With all of this information, let's calculate the EfR. The critical modifier for this greatsword is 1 from the affinity, multiplied by 0.4 from critical boost 3, and we add 1 for a total of 1.4. This means that the EfR of the Dark of Night is 251 from its total attack, multiplied by 1.32 from its sharpness modifier, multiplied by 1.4 from its critical modifier, for a total of 463.8 EfR. In conclusions, it is easy to see that the best greatsword in version 3.0 of Monster Hunter Rise is the Nargacuga Greatsword, the Dark of Night. This greatsword has been the best since day one, and it will continue to be the best until further notice. A greatsword that was ahead of its time and 2 patches ahead of any other weapon. It is powerful, comfortable, and very easy to build for. Even with a simple 2-point talisman, we are able to get top-tier EfR from it, and it can stand up to any challenge that the game can offer. You cannot go wrong with this greatsword. In second place, there is the Rampage Cleaver S. This greatsword also offers fantastic EfR in a comfortable package that is only 1.1% weaker than Nargacuga. This difference is almost nothing and should not stop you from using the Rampage Greatsword in your main builds. One of the best points that this weapon brings to the table is the fact that it can be layered to look like any other greatsword in the game. This is the reason why any greatsword that is weaker than the Rampage Cleaver is irrelevant. Why would anyone use a greatsword that is weaker when they can just use the Rampage Greatsword and make it look like their favorite? Now, remember that these results are obtained with builds that have a simple 2-point talisman. If you have a God talisman, then things could change. The Rampage Greatsword might be weaker than the Nargacuga Greatsword in these conditions, but it has the most potential for improvement. The Nargacuga Greatsword has peaked. We already maxed out its attack and its affinity. If we were to use a stronger talisman with better skills, the Rampage Greatsword could be better, but that is a topic for another video. I wanted to make sure that I could get this information out in a manner that would help the most hunters possible. Unfortunately, not everyone has the luck to roll a God talisman. As we have seen, not much has changed. The Nargacuga Greatsword is king, and if you want the strongest, most efficient build possible, this is your greatsword. But I want to clarify one more time that whatever might be the best in the game might not necessarily be the best for you. Whether you want to use the Rampage Greatsword to layer it as your favorite weapon, or using a completely different build that is not focused on damage, please remember to use what makes you happy and whatever is fun for you. At the end of the day, Monster Hunter is about having fun. I have fun by optimizing builds and running the numbers. You do whatever is fun for you. This is a game, and quite honestly, if you're not having fun, then you're simply wasting your time. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope that I get to see you on the next one.